Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Is back talking about books, and today we are going to be talking about a book that I don't think I've talked about anything else in this series, but it is the new Hunger Games book that came out. We are talking about Sunrise on the Reaping. It is the Haymitch prequel in the Hunger Games universe. It has been over 10, maybe 15 years since I've read the original series, and I have not revisited this world until this book. Some backstory: I was obsessed with the movies, I was obsessed with the books. I read all of the books before I saw any of the movies. I actually saw the first movie for my 7th grade class. Like, we went on a field trip together to go watch the movie in theaters because we read it for our 7th grade class. I was a Hunger Games girly, okay? I was a dystopian YA girly. I loved the series. I literally had a binder, my English binder for my class, said Team PETA, and I decorated it Josh Hutcherson on my freaking binder, and it said Team PETA, and people were trying to fight me like they were Team Gale, but you know people don't like Gale. But anyway, I am talking about this new book from a perspective where I haven't really revisited any of the other books. I know the lore, I know the world. Honestly, on a very superficial level, I haven't really gotten deep into it because it's been so long since I've read any of those other books. And I also haven't read the Lucy Gray Baird book either. I did watch the movie, so that is kind of my backstory. It is not the same at all. The Lucy Gray Baird book, the Songbirds and Snakes, I don't know why I didn't want to read it. It just didn't seem interesting to me. I also heard a lot of mixed feelings about the book, and I also feel like I don't really care about what Snow thinks. I don't want to read a book in the perspective of Snow. But there are other characters I really wanted to read their perspective on this world and the Hunger Games, and Haymitch was one of those people. I wanted to know about his games. I wanted to know his backstory. So that's why I was like, ooh, wait a minute, maybe I should read this book. And if there's anything that I am as a person, it is a byproduct of everything around me, okay? I'm so easily influenced, and so when I heard so many rave reviews about Sunrise on the Reaping, I was like, say less. Let me just put an order for the library that I could put it on hold, and it came a week later. I was like, okay, it's meant to be. Let me just read it and see what this is about. And you know what? It's been so long. So this is a perspective coming from someone who hasn't read the series in a long time. So I'm going into it pretty much blind. And I must say, it floored me. It did not feel like a YA book at all. It actually felt way more adult than I remember the original series being. Let's go into backstory about Sunrise on the Reaping. If you don't know anything about the Hunger Games world, about the universe, first of all, where have you been? Second of all, I will go into it just in small detail. So this book follows Haymitch when he is younger in his Hunger Games. Haymitch is, in the original series, Katniss's mentor. He won the games on the 50th quarter quell, which is double the tributes that would usually happen. Usually there's 12 districts. There's 2 people in each district, 1 boy, 1 girl, that gets chosen every year on the 4th of July to enter the Hunger Games, which is a fight to the death that is televised on TV as repentance for a civil war that broke out years and years ago. And we go back in time. This is a prequel. Katniss's story is the original trilogy. This is Haymitch's Hunger Games. This is 24 years before the original series starts off. Before Katniss was ever born, we get Haymitch as 16, 17-year-old boy who is entered into the Hunger Games. There's gonna be spoilers in the review. He gets entered into this Hunger Games in an illegal way. He's illegally entered. He isn't actually chosen through the Reaping. It's also his birthday. Every 4th of July, every year on the Reaping Day is his birthday. Sad birthday, might I add. Now, because it is the 50th Hunger Games, it is a quarter quell, meaning that they do a little something special for the quarter quell, meaning that instead of picking 2 tributes, the government will pick 4 from each district. And there are 12 districts, meaning that instead of 24 tributes, there are actually 48 tributes that will be put into the Hunger Games. So the odds being ever in your favor is even less in your favor. There is almost positively no way out of this, but obviously we know Haymitch survives. We obviously know all the other tributes that you are going to meet throughout the book are going to die. It's really just the journey to get there and making that journey interesting and the little nuances in between. And I think that's something that Suzanne Collins did really well in this book. You already know that everybody is doomed from the start. You know Haymitch, you know his story, you know everyone's gonna die. A prequel is basically, how do we get here? How did we get to this point? I must say, out of all of the Hunger Games books, this was the most brutal. It didn't feel like YA at all. There was a lot of things that happened where I was like, damn, this is really sad. They hinted at things, like they said the R word. They mentioned that word in the book, and I don't think that's ever happened before. Can't imagine anyone who's not an adult reading this kind of topics and about the government and about rebellion and revolution, how they will digest it as like a middle school reader. I'm guessing we read the original Hunger Games and I'm pretty sure it had those topics in it. It just didn't feel like YA to me. It just felt so much more brutal and sad and traumatizing and torturous than I remember the books being. For the most part, I gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. No notes. I mean, obviously a few notes, right? It's not like a 5 out of 5 star, like, oh my god, I need to reread it over and over again, one of my favorite books of all time. But I will say it might be up there. I have to reread the original series to really completely say this, but it might be one of my favorite books of the Hunger Games universe. What it did well, they did really well. There was some parts where I was like, maybe this could be a plot hole, and I'll get into all of that right now. I was super engrossed from the very beginning to the very end. There is a sort of structure to these books, right? The first half of the book, you're not even in the games yet. The first half is talking about how we get to the games. The reaping, the day of the reaping, picking it out, doing the interviews with Caesar Flickerman. The interviews, there's dressing up, there's the chariot race, trying to get sponsors. They go through all of that once again, right? But I found it really interesting that the book sort of poses questions about what does it take for a person to actually rebel against the regime? Why is it that we submit so easily to the way things are? And what will it take? What does a person have to do to actually change things? It also goes into surveillance, right? And having the entire games broadcasted. And from the very beginning, from the start, from the reaping day, we see how things can be misconstrued through the edit and how media can change the perception of what actually happened to fit the narrative that they want to put out. And I found that that message specifically in this book was a lot stronger, to its detriment, honestly, which I'll go into a little later. But it was a really interesting way that they did it, and I love the way they showed that, right? Like, they showed the reaping, Haymitch getting reaped, but he didn't actually get reaped, right? This is where I go into the spoilers. He was chosen just by the girl who picks it. I forget her name, but he didn't actually get his name called. What happens is that there's another boy who gets his name called. Haymitch is not chosen, he's safe, right? But then that boy who got called starts to run away. He gets shot by peacekeepers, he dies, there's a whole fight that ensues, and Haymitch gets into the fight somehow, and through that, because he did that, they were just like, all right, we're gonna choose your name. So she picks out a random name and says Haymitch Abernathy instead. He wasn't chosen through the reaping, he was handpicked. They were like, this is your punishment for intervening in the aftermath of whatever happened when that other boy got into that tussle with the peacekeepers. The book starts off by also having a descendant of Lucy Gray Barrett, I believe, be in love with Haymitch. Haymitch and this girl named Lenora Dove, they are in love. That was the one thing in the book where I was like, I don't believe this. I don't think we have enough time. Like, I don't think there could have been possibly anything the author could have done to put it in a 400-page book to make the love between Haymitch and Lenora Dove believable, because there's just no time. There's so much that happens in the games. There's so much depth. There's so many other characters that we have to learn about and have to love and then have to grieve. There's just no time to stick with Lenora Dove and build up this relationship and be like, oh, Haymitch loves her. Haymitch would do anything for her. He just says from the get-go, I love her. This is the love of my life. I will do anything for her. Like all descendants in the family that Lucy Gray Barrett is in, what family is it called? The Covey. Anyone in this family, they are not really part of a district. They have those kind of attitudes that fit that rebellious mind. Haymitch is in love with her, and Haymitch literally talks about her, kid you not, Every single chapter, her name gets brought up. He's in the Hunger Games, he's about to die, and he's like, Lenora Dove. Every single chapter, he talks about her, and I think that was the way that Suzanne Collins was probably like, okay, I can't build up this love story. I can't build up their chemistry and like, oh, they're in love, and we actually believe that. So I'm just gonna have Haymitch talk about her in every single chapter. Literally every other page, this guy was talking about this girl. Like, he was jaw-dropping in love with her. We get it. We get it, okay? It was honestly funny. Like, every time I heard her name, I was like, boy, not this again. Not this again. Not her again. But I get it. I just wish we knew a little bit more about her. We learned more about her by the end, but I think that we didn't really get enough of her character and see that she is this rebellious girl. We get a few lines here and there, but you just gotta kind of, as a reader, understand she has that rebellious mindset and they're in love. Those are just things that you have to know. The things that I found to be the best in the book were the most heartbreaking things. They really built all of the really young kids that get into these games, how horrible Snow is and how horrible the government is. It's so heart-wrenching, and this book in general was really heart-wrenching, but I loved it. I loved that you got to follow these characters who were just kids, and they really show that. Like, these sweet young kids who are so smart, like Amber. My poor baby Amber. How much you fall in love with these kids and show that they are kids, and then just utterly wreck your heart and destroy them. I like the aspects of having those scenes where it's a bunch of the tributes and then it's just a few peacekeepers. The peacekeepers are outnumbered, but why is it that we submit? I really like that they put multiple scenes of that in here. Why is it that people just stand by and be oppressed when there's something that they could do about it? Who's gonna be the one to take action and do that thing? Haymitch, he's kind of like a copy and paste YN type of guy. That was one of the aspects that I didn't really like about, I mean, it's not that I didn't like it, but it was just like whatever about the book, was that he did not really matter. He like was a YN character. He could have been anybody. He was going through the flow. Like, things were happening to him, and yeah, he did a lot of the action. He was doing a lot of the action because he loved Lenora Dove, right? He wanted to break the arena because he loved Lenora Dove. He was just kind of doing things just to do things. And I didn't really feel like he had a strong character. That's how I felt about Haymitch as a character. Who I loved as a character was Maisley. I think the character of Maisley Donner, I think she was the best written character in this book. She just had so much aura. She was presented in such a way where she developed so much. Going through these games and seeing her heart, seeing how tough she is, this front that she puts on, that she's kind of like a mean girl, right? And she will make fun of people. She kind of has a stick up her butt. You're supposed to not like her in the beginning, but then over time you start to really fall in love with her, and you see how close Haymitch and Maisley get with each other way more. I didn't think romantically. They called them sister brother, but I saw the chemistry between them and their relationship develop and flourish way more with Haymitch and Maisley than I did with Lenora Dove and Haymitch. Truly, truly, truly. Either way, I still think it was a perfectly well done job by Suzanne Collins. The one thing that happened in the games too that I really was like so sad about was Welly's death. She was one of the younger tributes. It just really put into perspective how sad these games were. Her death, I haven't read the first Hunger Games book in so long, but more than Rue's death, I'd say, from what I remember, gutted me. Hearing Welly be alone the entire games, starving to death, almost dying, and then Haymitch finding her. Welly saying, "Don't leave me," over and over again. She just doesn't want to be alone. She just doesn't want to die alone. And imagine this little girl spending her entire time having people come after her, try to kill her, and she's starving. Just hang up in this tree and just wait until she slowly disintegrates into nothing. And one of her last words to Haymitch being, "Don't leave me." She just didn't want to be alone, and she was so scared. Like, the words "don't leave me," you could just feel how scared she was and how young she was. All of the people in this book are just kids. This book, more than any, from what I remember that I've read, just really solidified that. These are kids, and the movies cannot do that. A lot of the actors, they're in their 20s or they look a little older. These are kids in this book, and having that and her just not wanting to be alone, it just was so heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking in a way that I loved. It's one of the most raw, powerful points of the book. Also, how there's 2 tributes left at the end of the book. It's Haymitch and this one other tribute. I forgot their name. Sorry. I forgot their name. But this tribute is just desperate too. I think it was one of the careers. It shows the humanity in even the careers, because all of them, right, from District 1 to 12, they are all just kids. The second to last tribute was shown to be brutal, was shown to be a killer, but they're also raised up in this way to do these things. And one of their last words, as they literally have an axe coming to murder Haymitch. You could not like this person, you could not like this character in the slightest, but you still empathize with them and you still understand what they're feeling because of their words. They said, the tribute says, I just want to go home, and this is the only way. I just want to go home back to my people. That is all anyone of these kids are just trying to do, no matter if they're horrible murderers and are careers and they've killed so many people. They're kids. They're literally kids, and they're doing all of this out of survival. It was just the most brutal punch to the gut. I also really loved that after the games, after Haymitch wins, you see the edit. You see how they edited the Hunger Games, how all of the chaos that Haymitch did in the games, trying to break the arena, trying to blow it up, it was edited down. All of that was taken out. They didn't use any of that footage. The Capitol created this narrative that Haymitch won an entirely completely different way. They even had some of the tribute deaths in different order. They made Haymitch out to be a guy who was just out for himself, didn't care about the other tributes. They used a lot of footage of him trying to save other tributes, save some of his friends that he made along the way. They took that out, they reworked it, and I found that to be really interesting and really made sense for how reality TV is nowadays, how the edit can just distort and alter things so much. The one thing I will say about that though, if the Capitol can edit these things down so heavily and so much, and President Snow has such a say in this, and Snow lands on top, how is it that in Haymitch's games, which is 24 years before Katniss's games, they edited the frick out of Haymitch's games? To have all of the rebellious things that are happening, to have that all taken out, to have it a clean cut game, to have a very specific bit narrative on who Haymitch is, they put that in the game, and anything that could cause a stir, that there could be some rebelliousness in the society or with the people of the districts, that was all taken out, right? Haymitch had a small funeral for, I think, one of the tributes. That was cut out entirely. How is it President Snow cut all of that out of Haymitch's games, but then when it came to the 74th annual, is President Snow just too old at this point? Maybe I gotta reread the first book, but it makes me wonder why they allowed Katniss to do a lot of the things that she did, or why in Katniss's games they let a lot of things slide when it came to the final edit. They showed Rue die, and then they showed the cameras and the footage of her dying, Katniss having this little funeral for her. Why did they show that if the Capitol has the capacity in their edit to just not show that? It just makes me wonder. I feel like it could be a potential plot hole. Don't count my word on that right now. I need to reread the first book to make sure of that. Yeah, it just makes me wonder that. If they have the capacity to edit all of this down, why did they keep in Katniss's Hunger Games Rue's funeral and having this entire rebellion happen in District 11? That's sort of everything that I can think of that I thought about this book. I loved it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just forgot, honestly, when I was reading the book, how sad these books are, and all of the sadness just comes barreling in at the end. You really get a sense of who Haymitch is and his character, really why the way he is, how he is, why he's an alcoholic. Me too. Like, if that happened to me, I would be the same way. There are no victors of the Hunger Games. There are only survivors. Once your name gets called, that's it. Your life is over as you know it. For the rest of your life, even if you win the Hunger Games, you have not won anything. It would have been better to just hide and not exist at that point. Even though Haymitch won, he still lost everything. It was just so sad and tragic. Just one after another, just sadness upon sadness, even after his game, after he's won. It was also very scary. When I was reading it and all these kids were dying, I couldn't fall asleep. I was up till 5 a.m. I was like, I can't sleep. I'm scared. I just felt a deep pang of sadness in my gut for his story, who he is and what he's been through. I just didn't remember this world being this brutal. It kind of does make me want to reread the original series. Yeah, that's my review on The Sunrise on the Reaping. I loved it. So please, please, please let me know if you have read this book. Let me know your thoughts on it down below. Let me know if you're gonna watch the movie next year, because I'm actually really excited for the movie. They're already promoting this movie through just like casting on TikTok so much. This is gonna be the event of next winter. It's coming in so long. It's so long from now, but I'm ready. I'm sat. I'm so there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.